Hello world, and we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl. This could be the next episode of my poker vlog. I am outside the Sarasota poker room, One-Eyed Jacks, and if you wanted to play the best poker game in your area, 10 a.m. on a Monday is probably not the one you want to go to. I am right now like the only person on the list, so might be an hour, might be 2 hours before the game even starts running, but sometimes your schedule just dictates. Think 1-3 deep, so I think it's going to run today. Hopefully still get some good hands for you. If you are unable to play with me on the live streets, I'm constantly playing on the virtual felt on Club GG. If you have any interest in playing with me on the virtual felt, please message me on Instagram or Telegram. Get you set up for that. Play Mondays 1-2 pretty much always, and that'd be pretty fun to mix it up with some of the fans. Otherwise, let's roll the tape. We buy into the 1-3 deep stack game for $800, and we're greeted with two less notable hands before we arrive at the first hand of note. I look down at ace-jack of spades from the hijack. With a bunch draw, there's 5 limps to me. I'm going to size this one up huge. If I just take down the dead money, it seems pretty good. I raise it up to $40, and to this bet, only the under-the-gun player decides to call, so we end up going heads up to a flop, which comes 7-6-5 with 2 spades. When my opponent checks to me, when we think of who has the range advantage and nut advantage, it is certainly my opponent. He could have straights, he could have sets, he could have 2 pairs, but we hope that he just doesn't have like 8-9 suited in his range when he limp calls for $40, quite a big raise size. So even though we are lacking on both range and nut advantage, we're still going to bet, and we're going to bet big here. We're just going to pot it, hope my opponent has some random ace highs, some king highs, maybe he has like 10 jack offsuit, and if he has the nutted part of the range, we are going to just hope to realize our equity, hit one of our spades to suck out, but for $75, my opponent folds, and we take down the first significant hand of the day with a bluff.
Absolutely fabulous.
We win another small, less notable hand before we arrive at the next hand of note. Quite a fun one. I looked down at ace-king offsuit from the hijack. With 1 limp, I raise it up to $15. The button and the +1 player decides to call, so I'm going 3 ways to a flop, which is 10-3 deuce with 2 hearts. When my opponent checks to me, this is a hand like the first one where we can just bet pretty big and get our opponents to fold pretty much all their air, all their misses a lot of the time. I do think that would put us in a little bit of the over-aggression territory, so we're going to check this to the button, see what he wants to do. And he wants to bet. He bets pretty big for $35. Having the king of hearts seems pretty good here. We have backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, 2 overs. Folding to 1 bet, especially when we check to our opponent, gave him some rope, gave him some opportunity to bet, would be quite weak in my opinion. So we're going to peel 1, see what develops. And when the other player folds, the turn is the 5 of spades. So I guess we kind of hit a backdoor because a 4 gives us a straight, although we're not too thrilled about that one. And we check to our opponent, probably going to give up on this one, but he checks it back. And I think this kind of narrows him to certainly less than top pair. I believe if my opponent had like a 10, he'd want to bet a second time, protect against the flush draws and overcards and a lot of stuff that could be dangerous. So when he checks it back, I'm thinking he's more likely to have a draw or a very small pocket pair. We are heads up to a river, which comes the 6 of clubs. We are left with ace high, not a whole lot of prospect of winning. I check to my opponent, fully expecting to lose, but then he bets $50. And then my wheels start turning. I don't think a single pair could bet this river. I don't think he can have a 4 almost ever. Seems kind of weird. But I do think if my opponent had like Jack X of hearts that are left with Jack high. Plenty of weak missed flush draws that have to put out a bet here as their only chance of winning. Kind of bad that I have the King of Hearts now. I would much rather not have one at this point so my opponent can have King X of Hearts. Makes this call decision a little more dicey, but you know what? Sometimes you just have to put your cape on and be a hero. I make the call. My opponent immediately says, I missed, you're good.
I won.
He doesn't really want to show, so I didn't really want to show because I only have ace high, but eventually I do end up flipping over ace king high. We're good. We scoop in a decent sized pot, calling 2 bets with just ace high. On the next interesting hand, I'm in the small blind. I look down at pocket queens. The under the gun player raises to $11. This is definitely a less than standard size. Had never seen an $11 bet so far today. Quite odd. Additionally, had not seen a bet from this opponent before. Also starting to sound a little bit of an alarm bells. But when the hijack calls, the low jack calls, I can't just call with pocket queens. I'm going to 3-bet this one up to $50, and it does not take too long for the under the gun player to raise to $125. I had just done the first 3-bet of the table the entire time across multiple hours, and I'm faced with a 4-bet. A 4-bet that's almost a min 4-bet. And it is from a player who I do not think voluntarily just raised. They were mostly limping the entire day, and now we're facing a 4-bet. This really isn't even a decision. This is kind of just a snap fold.
And how much money is it worth to have your life ruined?
If you have an opponent that has a propensity to limp more often than open, and then they're opening and 4-betting, we're probably just going to give them credit for having it. I fold face up pretty quickly. My opponent does not show his hand, and I think that when you do really big hero folds face up, when you're wrong, opponents are pretty happy to show you how wrong you are, so thinking my opponent just had aces and we escape only losing $50 seems pretty good. Following that, with the ace of hearts, king of spades in the cutoff, when the +1 player makes it $15, I'm going to 3-bet again because they can't 4-bet me every time. I make it $45. The +1 player is the only caller, so I'm going heads up to a flop, which comes 10-4 deuce with 2 spades. Again, we get a 10 high board with ace king, not quite the best. We do have backdoors, we have spades this time as well, so not the absolute worst flop. But when my opponent checks to me, I'm just going to check this one back. If the turn card is a jack or higher and my opponent checks me a second time, we have the green light to bet pretty big and win a high majority of the time. But when I check it back, the turn is the 7 of spades. So we do pick up a spade draw. When my opponent checks it to me a second time, this is not the card where I think betting pot gets a fold a lot of the time. I think my opponent either has showdown value, like has a 10, has a 7, because when the spades come in, those single pair holdings are not feeling comfortable enough to bet themselves, but they're certainly not folding to a bet. However, if my opponent had complete misses like king queen, ace jack, or ace 8, or something like that, it's going to fold to a small bet size a lot of the time. So I bet $35 and my opponent makes the call. When my opponent's not raised here, I do think he's weighted towards a single pair holding a lot of the time. Sometimes he has the ace of spades specifically, but if we get any card higher than a 10, we are certainly going to blast away on this river. And that is not what we get. We get the 3 of clubs, probably one of the worst cards I could see. If my opponent has a 10 or a 7, they're feeling pretty comfortable with that specific river card and may be inclined to call a river bet when they still have top or second pair. When my opponent checks to me, I think that I beat hands like 8-9. I beat ace of spades X. Maybe jack 9 or jack 8 with a spade plays this way. There are a few hands that I'm ahead of, so with a little bit of showdown value, I decided to check it back. But this time my opponent has pocket 5s. So unfortunate that a 3 hits that river card. I was certainly counting my bluff outs on this one. They just didn't happen to hit. Between the last hand and the one coming up, we played a double board PLO bomb pot, and I had top full house into quads, and my opponent had the exact 2 cards to have 2 pair on the other board. So I was actually scooped for $1,000, which is not what we're looking for. So maybe that justifies some bad play on this one. I have ace of diamonds, king of spades in the small blind with 1 limp. The hijack makes it $20. I'm 3-betting, and I'm 3-betting big this time because I can't get back to even by just calling. I make it $75, and the hijack decides to make the call. So we are heads up to a flop, which is king 9-6 with 2 diamonds. I feel pretty good about this hand. Top pair, ace of diamonds to fall back on if I need it. I'm still going to check a lot of my range out of position. It's a bloated pot. My opponent only has like $200 behind. So I think it's pretty easy to get the money in on certain runouts when I want to. I check, hoping to just check jam here if he bets like 40 or 50, but he checks it back. The turn is the 8 of diamonds. Alright, so I have top pair, ace of diamonds to fall back on. I check, going for the check jam again. I don't really have a good reason for this, except that I didn't think my opponent had a whole lot of anything, and I wanted to give him rope to possibly bluff. And my opponent bets $100, and this is obviously not a size that's ever a bluff, but my plan was to get the money in. He only has about 200 total, so I raised to $200. He calls, and I just show my hand, thinking that it's good. At least some of the time. Some of the time I'm going to need my diamond. And the diamond does hit. The river is the 7 of diamonds. What do you know? We river the, I guess, second or third nuts. And my opponent is mad. Like, he slams his cards on the table, and I don't even know why. I guess he had a set or something. But then he turns them over, and he had 5-3 of diamonds, so I actually had a flush. And we ended up getting one of very few remaining diamonds in the deck to be able to beat him.
I beat you, I won. I beat you, I won!
I'd like to say it was a bad beat, but he did call a 3-bet with 5-3 of diamonds. So certainly hoping to build some momentum, work on this deficit after that bomb pot. I look down at ace-jack of diamonds in the +1 spot. With a button straddle, the under the gun player raises to $30. And I would love to 3-bet this one, but versus an under the gun raise, I think this hand just has to be a call. So I make the call. That brings along the hijack, small blind, and big blind. So we end up going 5 ways to a flop, pretty massively multi-way. And the flop comes pretty good for us. It comes ace, king, 7 with 2 clubs, top pair, good kicker. We have draws to get value from. But when the under the gun player checks to me, there's so many people who have position on me. I think I'm just going to check, see what they want to do, get some information. And the hijack decides to bet $75. Both blinds fold and the under the gun player decides to call. At this point, I guess you could jump ship some of the time. You have a pretty big bet from the hijack and under the gun who has theoretically the tightest range. He could have like ace queen, which has us in pretty bad shape. I guess pocket aces, pocket kings goes for a check raise or a trap some of the time. So those are not out of the woods either. But I do want to peel one street. I have top pair. Folding top pair to 1 bet just seems a little too weak for me. So I peel one, hoping for a clean turn card, and that is exactly not what we get when the turn is the 9 of clubs. Club draw completes immediately, and when 2 people have shown significant interest in the hand, it's pretty likely one of them has a flush, so I'm not likely to put more money in this pot. When the gun player checks, I check. The hijack was the flop betting lead. He checks it back. All right, I guess there's a chance I have the best hand. My opponent could have like queen jack, weaker aces that felt good when it was checked to them. Maybe they just have a random king that feel like they have to pick up the betting lead because it was checked to them and they just want to take down the pot. Either way, we are going 3 ways to a river card, which is the 6 of spades. Doesn't change a whole lot. I don't expect that to make any 2 pair or straight or anything. Under the gun checks, I check. If this checks through, there's some chance that I'm going to win this hand. But the hijack decides to bet all in for $800. And if you're doing the math right, there's about 400 in the pot. So he just 2x pot rips. I had this opponent pegged for a very tight player from what I'd seen from him previously. From this hand, even when the 9 of clubs turned, I kind of got the feel that he just kind of made a flush. So I'm really never paying this off. I'm actually hoping the other gun player decides to call so I can see both their hands. But after a decently long tank, he folds. He claims he had pocket 7s. I'm not sure I believe that as played, but if he did, we were in very bad shape, and I fold, and we'll never know what the hijack had, but I think it's pretty safe to say we did not have the best hand here. On the next fun hand of poker, I have pocket 8s on the button. Early position makes it $20. There's 3 callers. I'm not going to 3-bet pocket 8s. I'd rather just set mine. Seems pretty reasonable. 20 to win about 100. I make the call. We end up going 5 ways to a flop where we bink a set on 8 of diamonds, 7 of diamonds, 4 of spades. We do have 4 opponents to worry about. Either of them could have 5, 6 some of the time. Hijack just leads out for $30, cut off calls. With the diamond draw to worry about, 9, 10, plenty of overpayers to get value from. We're raising right now. We're trying to get our money back. I make it $100. Kind of small in relation to the size of the pot and the bet size, but we're just trying to get as much money in now while we think we have the best hand. And on this one, only the hijack decides to call. Cutoff folds, so we're hoping for a brick turn card. This time we get it. Deuce of spades is as good as it could possibly be. Really gonna try to size where a flush draw pays, maybe an overpair pays. Like this guy called 20 pre and he's bet into 4 other players, so he's repping pretty strong, but I had top set on the flop. I make it $175. I think this sets up good. He's got about 350, maybe 400 in a stack after this call for an easy river jam on any safe river card. But that's not what we get. When he makes the call, the river is the king of diamonds. So bad. Diamonds complete. If my opponent somehow had pocket kings, that gets there too. I really don't see myself getting value from worse on this one. Maybe in general, we should just never underestimate our opponent's ability to call with worse. I've seen some weird stuff at 2-5 and below. People might just get married to pocket 10s, pocket 6s. Maybe he has 7-4 for some reason. But in the game, I can only see diamond draws and complete air like 9-10. So I check it back, and I am completely owned in this one because my opponent has pocket 4s. So wish he would have just gotten in with me on the flop. You know, He bet, I raise, we just get it in because he's got a set and it's a draw heavy board. But he plays it kind of passive. I get a somewhat dangerous / action killy river, and that one's not going to be very good for me. Luckily for me, I win another small pot to kind of help me go in the right direction.
Every time I make some free money, it just makes me want to do it again.
Before we arrive at the final hand of note, I look down at King of Clubs, Queen of Diamonds in the small blind. When under the gun player makes it $15, the +1 3-bets to 40. When reversing an under the gun bet and a +1 3-bet, King Queen offsuit should probably just be a fold. Like, it just has such bad reverse implied odds, but I'm stuck and I'm trying to get back to even, so I make the call. The under the gun player calls as well, so I'm going to go 3 ways to a flop, which is ace 8-7 with 2 diamonds. We have completely missed, and we are definitely going to just check fold this one. But on this one, the under the gun player checks and the +1 checks as well, so we get a free turn card, which is the 4 of diamonds. Now having the Queen of Diamonds feels quite good. No one bet the flop, so they probably don't have an ace because the board's pretty draw heavy. So I decided I'm going to size up this one. I bet 2/3 pot to $80, thinking that all my opponent's pocket pairs are going to just fold, fearful of the ace. Don't think too many people have an ace out there. But unfortunately for me, the under the gun player decides to call. So I'm going to need some help on this river card, and we get it. We bink the 10 of diamonds on the river. But this opponent had been so tight in the past, I just don't see him calling a bet here almost ever. And for whatever reason, my spidey sense is tingling. I decide to check. He assembles a bet of $120, and I hate it already. I kind of just side call, thinking I'm beat here a lot of the time. And sure enough, he does have the King of Diamonds. He also has an ace, so kind of weird that he has ace-king with a diamond. Doesn't 4-bet ace-king. Doesn't raise when he has top pair and nut flush draw on the turn. Just, calls, gets there, and gets paid by the second nuts. Not quite my day. I end up losing $1,200 on the day across 5 hours, equating to $240 an hour or 48 big blinds an hour.
Yeah, I got wasted by a bomb pot. Full house into quads. Didn't even catch it on camera, which is kind of ironic. I guess I should have pulled it out, at least got a snapshot of losing, top full house into quads, but I suppose I was too busy giving my chips to my opponent to be able to do that. And, sometimes you just take a big hand, it goes the other way, big loss, and you just spiral and you can't really recover from it. Like, if that hand didn't happen, I'm certainly profitable, certainly not punting off chips afterwards, but, maybe I need to take a break from playing the PLO double boards because they haven't been going my way very well recently. So hopefully I can turn it around going forward. Thank you for watching over this point. I appreciate every view I get, and I will see you on the next one.